Bickley and Marotta. Bickley and Marotta mornings. Arizona sports. The local sports leader. Bickley Blast.
So, what do you know? Another day, another hit piece directed at Jonathan Gannon from a publication in Philadelphia. Okay, Philly, we get it. Maybe he lied to you. Maybe his defense sucked in the second half of the Super Bowl. But this idea that he lost you a championship is conspiratorial and laughable. And besides, you're Philadelphia, supposedly one of the toughest, roughest, bare-knuckled sports town in America. Get over it. Oh, and look, here's Steve Keim on television talking to Colin Cowherd, saying it is not smart for NFL teams to hire defensive-minded head coaches at this point in NFL history, not unless that person's an elite leader. Memo to Steve Keim, shut up. Seriously, you do not have license to be critical about the Cardinals because they are in this ditch mostly because of you. So finally, memo to the Bird Gang. If you were enthused by what you saw in Week 1 and you have tickets for Sunday's game, you might want to rally around this football team, a team that is being wildly disrespected by outsiders and insiders alike, and a team that might need a little emotional support. After all, the Giants, they're the next opponent, and they're the most embarrassed team in the league at the moment. Then come the Cowboys. And the reminder, a start of a new era is not a good time to be selling your tickets to infidels, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're right. There's a faction of the Philly media, maybe it's all of the Philly media, that is really focusing in on every word that comes out of Jonathan Gannon's mouth. So they have more fodder. They've got more quote-unquote ammunition against him.
Yeah, to prove he cost them a championship.
Yeah. By the way, it is official. Adam Schefter put it out there that the MRI confirmed Aaron Rodgers officially tore his Achilles tendon on the fourth play of last night's game. He is out for the rest of the season, and now the questions can begin on his future in New York or in the NFL after that. We'll get back into that in just a little bit. This is from the Philly Voice, the piece that you referenced earlier in the show and in the blast. And this is just, it's got a lot of the examples we've talked about, the things that Jonathan Gannon has said in interviews, the things that he said during the uniform reveal party that everybody in Philadelphia said, wait, that didn't happen. There's a lot of fact-checking going on.
Oh, yeah.
This writer writes, a day after the story from The Athletic came out, Marcus Hayes of The Inquirer reported that the above story never actually happened. That was the story about Jonathan Gannon taking credit for Shane Steichen taking over play-calling duties midway through 2021. That's been refuted a lot. Not that Marcus needs me to vouch for him, but I can confirm that his report was accurate. It's going to be hilarious when the Cardinals lose 15-plus games and Caleb Williams decides he wants no part of that blank show, so he goes back to USC for his senior season.
Yeah.
That is the prevailing this is the media.
Look, yes, and I can understand if people in Philadelphia think that Jonathan Gannon is practicing revisionist history or if they're countering stories he's telling and saying that's not true. Okay? I get that. What I do not understand is all these examples of how bad the Eagles' defense was in the second half of the Super Bowl, and there's one tweet, one metric after another. The Eagles' defense had played 400 football games in the past X amount of years. That game was the 395th worst, and for it to happen in the Super Bowl, and everybody is blaming the defensive coordinator. What about the players? There's not a word said about the players. And again, there's some responsibility to be shared by all here, but we've heard Hassan Reddick talk about the Super Bowl. He doesn't sound like a guy angry at his defensive coordinator.
No.
So
he was one of the guys that was more angry at the turf.
Yes. Yes. So to me, when I think you look at this, and it must be driving them crazy that Jonathan Gannon actually had a really good week 1.
Yes. I mean, ultimately, they lost the game, so there's that silver lining for those people in Philadelphia. But we haven't seen, honestly speaking, Bick, we haven't seen a lingering reaction to a Super Bowl loss since Seattle lost to the Patriots. When Darrell Bevell called the pass down at the goal line, Malcolm Butler picked it off.
That's a good comparison.
That lingered for a long time. In fact, some people believe the Seahawks organization was never the same after that. The Legion of Boom was never the same after that. That I mean, that came down to one play.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, you want to talk about, putting these on the scale of legitimacy as far as gripes go for an excuse to lose a Super Bowl. That one holds a lot more water than our defensive coordinator's lying about things.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Get over it.
They have the animosity towards him that some ASU fans have towards Herm Edwards or U of A fans have towards Sean Miller when they see them now, except that both those guys actually did illegal stuff that hurt their teams and programs and left them in worse spots.
Yeah.
This is just them not liking the way he coached a half in a game.
And again, if you were going to flip this, and there would probably be football fans in Philly that would say, yeah, it's real easy for you to say it's no big deal, but we're talking about a Super Bowl here, and we're talking about a defensive coordinator who may not have been all in, who may have been secretly planning for a job interview. They ignore the fact that Shane Steichen did the exact same thing the exact same week, but he was allowed to do it, so it's not a big deal. There's just a little too much scapegoating here that I think is really unbecoming for a town like that.
Well,
if this was Portland, I'd get it.
It's very convenient. They lose a Super Bowl on a Sunday. Monday, their defensive coordinator, after a defensive failure by everyone involved, by the way, takes another coaching job. It's easier to scapegoat Jonathan Gannon for that than it is to take blame or maybe, I don't know, admit that you got beat by a superior football team.
Yeah. Yes. And then secondarily, as referenced in the blast, I really would like Steve Keim to stop talking about the Cardinals. It really is grotesque.
Yeah, I mean, just stopping short of, wow, the Cardinals are really in dire straits right now. I wonder why.
Well, you're really, if you're hiring. Who did this? Who did this? If you're hiring
we're
a
all
defensive.
trying to find who did this.
Yeah.
Hey.
If you're hiring a defensive-minded head coach, you're doing it wrong, says the guy who hired Cliff Kingsbury.
No, he's got to be a dynamic leader.
Oh, right.
What was your last head coaching hire?
Right.
How did that fall on the,
it's
in terms of dynamic leadership?
It's just grotesque.
I'll tell you what. If the Arizona Cardinals are in dire straits, then Steve Keim is Mark Knopfler, babe.
Then Steve Keim's getting money for nothing, babe. Really, I've heard enough from both of them.
Yeah, me too. Philly media is not close to being done, though.